am so excited that you're here today, y'all. It's a big deal that you're at Citigroup. Pat yourself on the back that you're here. And if you're here for the very first time, welcome. You're in a really good place, man. I hope that you are going to find some great friends, some great relationships, get connected to a small group leader, and really just have the time of your life here at Citigroup. Now, if you don't know who I am, I'm John. I'm one of the student pastors here at Radiant, and I am just excited that you're here. And I love city groups because it's all about you really taking your next step and figuring out all that God has created you to be. And I'm really honored because today I'm kicking off our series on identity in city groups. And I just think that we are created on such an intentional reason, such an intentional purpose, that we are trying to figure out who we are, and we're looking at a million different things. And in reality, God has already given us the Bible, so we know exactly who we're supposed to be. We just got to see who He made us to be. And I love that phrase in society that so many times we're told, be you. But we're always trying to figure out, well, who am I supposed to be? If I'm just supposed to be me, what does that really mean? Because I don't even know who I really am, right? And I think that what's happened is we go into society, we go into school, we hang out with that group of friends, and we change who we are from group to group, from school to church, for our family to friends, trying to figure out who we are. And every time we go into a different group, we have a different mask on. And we take that mask off, we go to another group, we put a different mask on. And what happens is we begin to try to figure out, who really am I? And we're trying to figure out who we are in Christ, who we are just as a person in general. And we're struggling with this idea of identity. And today we're going to talk about how there is no reason to wear a mask, that you are made on a purpose for a purpose. And so we're going to start in Ephesians chapter 2, verse 10. And the author of Ephesians, his name was Paul, takes this beautiful passage and talks about how we are God's masterpiece, created in Christ Jesus to do good works. And you, sitting right there, you're a masterpiece. You are made beautifully and fearfully, wonderfully made by Christ for a purpose. Man, I love the word masterpiece because a lot of times when we are studying artists and different people like that, the word masterpiece means their best work. Think about that for a second, that when God created the entire galaxy, He looked at us and said, you are His masterpiece. Everything in our society, everything in our world that we think is beautiful, that we think is awesome, He thinks that you're His best work. Man, if that's not something that gets you excited, I don't know what will, because you are a masterpiece. Man, if you look at Genesis chapter 1, verse 27, it continues to say, so God created mankind in His own image. In the image of God, He created them. Male and female, He created them. He created you exactly like you're supposed to be, who you are. That is who you're made to be. Man, woman, you're there on purpose, intentionally. It wasn't a mistake. You know, he continues this idea even more in the book of Psalms. And the author David talks about how he knitted us together in his mother's womb. He took the time to knit us together perfectly, piece by piece. It wasn't just a random act. It wasn't by accident. It wasn't a mistake. You were made intentionally. God took the time to form you. Every little thing that you dislike, man, God loves those things. And He even just doesn't say that He loves those things. He says that you're His masterpiece. You're His best work. You know, if you look in the book of John, Jesus is talking to His disciples and talking to the crowd that are following Him around. And He looks at us and He says that He chose us before time began. Jesus chose us. Man, Jesus chose you. You need to take that in and think about that for a second. That the creator of the universe, everything that He's done, He's chosen you for a reason, for a purpose. There wasn't an accident involved. You were chosen by God to be exactly who you are made to be. You know, in the book of Romans, Paul talks about this other idea of adoption. And so many times we think about this idea of adoption, of adopting a kid in another country, and we bring them over and we have them become a part of our family. But in Rome, it was a little different at the time when he wrote it. You see, when a mother had a child and was birthed a child, she got to decide if she wanted to keep the kid or if she wanted to pass the kid away. But it was a little bit different if you were to adopt a kid. If a father was to come in and say, I'm going to adopt a child, it was a huge legal process. It was a battle. It was something that the father had to fight for to be able to get the right to say that this was my son or daughter. But what would happen was, as soon as all of the legal battle was over and they said that I've adopted you, you are my son, it couldn't be revoked. It couldn't be changed. And what was so great about an adoption in Rome was that you might have had a very messed up past. Your name might have been a really bad name that had a lot of bad history connected to it. But as soon as you were adopted, the history was completely changed. Every mistake was removed, and you got a new name. And man, today, I just want you to get this idea that God has adopted you. Jesus wants to adopt you into his family. And every mistake that you've made, everything that you're ashamed of, everything that you think is holding you back from what you were created to be, Jesus is looking at you and saying, I have a new name for you. I have a place where you can be adopted into my family. And you will be there not just by mistake, but on purpose. You're his masterpiece, and he wants you there. You know, I have an old iPhone. I have an iPhone 6. It's like a dinosaur, and it's awesome. Not really. But this iPhone has Siri on it. I know, those ones had Siri too. And sometimes when I push and I ask Siri to, set an appointment or remind me about something or to call a friend, sometimes it doesn't work the best. And so what happens is I know that Siri is my personal assistant. That's why it was created, to be an assistant, to help me in my life. And so a lot of times I have to go to the Apple store and I have to take it back to its creator. And I hand the iPhone and I say, hey, Siri's messed up. I need y'all to look at it and fix this. And they'll take Siri and they'll work on it in the back for a little bit and they'll bring it back. And all of a sudden Siri works perfectly. It just had to be recalibrated to its purpose and its potential. And man, I think today you've got to realize that you need to be recalibrated back to your purpose and your identity, because you're created as a masterpiece on purpose for a purpose, and you need to just have some time where you can figure out what that purpose is and what that identity is. So we're going to break into small groups here in a little bit, and I really want you to lean in. This is the first week of city groups. This is the first week of small groups. Take some time to really get to know other people. Get to know your small group leader. But don't just sit there in the back. Really press in. Really open up. Really let people know who you are. Because as we figure out who we are together, we're really going to start to figure out who we are in Christ. I love you, Radiant students. I'll see you guys next week.